I've used CSS positioning to make the images in this page overlap one another, and in this lesson I'll show you how to control the stacking order using the Z-index property. I'll also explain why an element sometimes won't come to the front however high you set its Z-index. You can find a copy of this page, zindex.html, in the course assets in the Using CSS to Fix Elements in Position folder. So let's have a look at how this page is structured. Everything is inside a div with the ID wrapper, and if we look in the CSS Designer wrapper, position has been set to relative, so it acts as the containing block for all these absolutely positioned elements. Image 1, this first image at the top, simply has its position set to absolute. It doesn't have any offsets, so it's in its automatic position at the top. Image 2, this image here, position is set to absolute and it's got top and left offsets which are calculated from the containing block, in other words the wrapper div. Morrow is a figure element, and that contains this image of Morrow Rock and this splash banner image here. Position is set to absolute and it's got a top offset. Because the figure is absolutely positioned, it acts as the containing block for this nested image here. So destination, that's also absolutely positioned, and it's got negative top and left offsets, which explains why it's slightly up and to the left of the figure element. I deliberately set the top position of each element so that the images overlapped each other, and the reason that each successive one is in front of the other is because that's the order in which they appear in the underlying HTML. If I were to take the first image, cut it, and then go down a little bit lower and paste it after the first image, then refresh live view, the images aren't actually swapped in position. They're absolutely positioned after all, so their position won't change. What has changed is the stacking order. This first image is now second in the underlying HTML, so it appears in front of this image which is before it in the HTML. So let's see what we can do to bring this image to the front. So select Style and it's image 2, and in the Layout section scroll down a little bit further, and then there is Z-index, and if you click that it opens this little menu, select Value, and then if I type 1 in there it brings it to the front. But it not only brings it in front of this one, it also brings it in front of this one. So once you set the Z-index property of an element, it brings it in front of all the others that don't have a Z-index. So if I want to bring this one back in front, I have to set its Z-index, and I'll set that to a higher number, 2, and it brings it in front. So the higher the number you use for Z-index, the closer it is to the viewer. But sometimes you find yourself in a situation where it doesn't matter how high you set the Z-index, that element doesn't come to the front, and I'm going to demonstrate why that happens. First I'm going to go back to image 2 and I'm going to change its Z-index to 3. So it's now in front of this image here and of this splash image here. A splash image here, if I give this a Z-index, let's see what happens. So select destination and Z-index, select the value, and I'm going to give it a value of 4. It has a higher Z-index than this one here, but it's not come to the front. Let's set it to 4000. It still hasn't come to the front. It doesn't matter how high I try to set Z-index for this destination banner here, it will never come to the front. And the reason for that is because its containing block has a lower Z-index than this one here. So Morrow has a Z-index of 2, whereas image 2 has a Z-index of 3. If you're working with nested positioned elements, it's the Z-index of the containing block that determines which appears on top. Fortunately, this situation is relatively rare, but it's useful to know why Z-index sometimes doesn't seem to work.